Alright, so this is for the Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is kind of very lively with spirits and other things that have happened in and around the area because of how transportation took people from New York to different states. Pennsylvania seems to be a very hot spot for a lot of them. So, anyway, the Eastern State Penitentiary was once the most famous and most expensive prison in the world, but stands today in ruin and the haunting world of crumbling cell blocks and empty guard towers. Its vented as skylit cells once held many of America's most numerous law-breaking criminals, including Slick Willie, um, Satin, and the Scarface, Al Capone. So I would love to tour this place, to be honest. Um, I would just like to see which spirit would interact with me, to be honest. Um, if it's Al Capone, holy shit. But have you ever watched Scarface before? But yeah, it's a pretty decent area. But with penitentiaries, usually if there's like a jailbreak or something, the criminals don't stay there long. So if uh, if there's ever an opportunity to get a prison near you, I would totally take it because like criminals don't want to be seen by like guards and stuff like escaping, and they can't really blend into society really. So like they would have to get out of town and far away from the penitentiary in which they broke out of. So I don't think they'd be hanging around your house or your neighborhood too long if you had a penitentiary near it. Um, but you might see some interesting people come in and out. But anyway, we have face your fears. The night holds many mysteries, but fear not when you hear the fluttering of bat wings against the evening sky, for bats will protect you from pesky biting bugs. Uh, Fun for a penitentiary, huh? We have reflections. This decorated butterfly's wings is like tiny windows reflecting all the beauty it encounters. Let your words and actions be the window to goodness in your heart. And then we have shine your light. So you may feel you are just an ordinary being, but when you shine your light and glow uh, joyfully, exudes all that the world has to see, be extraordinary or extraordinary. Um, so, yeah. Um, so we have face your fears. So go face the spirits within. Make sure you learn Morse code because they'll probably do a lot of tapping, a lot of violent throwing too. So make sure you bring a helmet or at least a very watchful person. Some people are very hypersensitive to spirits and they'll be like looking around, like if they see something or hear something. And that's the type of friend you need to go on a mission about ghosts and about scenarios that pertain to the supernatural. So, the windows, of course, the windows are going to be pretty interesting because you have to see how much light comes into a penitentiary and to know like how expensive it is. The more light in a jail cell or system is a point of interest as well. But shine your light. Don't shine your light when you hear a noise. Shine your light in an adjacent area that the noise would come to in order to complete a task. You don't want to draw too much attention to yourself either. But yeah, just don't shine it directly where the sound came from. You have to go adjacent to where the sound landed and then an adjacent area so that you catch the ghost. Um, at least in a moment's notice. So we have the Fool, dandelions. There's probably a bunch of dandelions near the uh, penitentiary now, anyway. So uh, something foolish in all its forms, lack of careful thinking, disregard for consequences, mania, and excess. So one of these spirits is talking to us today, and the reason why they got caught is because they had an addictive behavior that they probably took to higher lengths than was necessary and risked got risky to the point of capture, access things, have excess interest in, uh, you know, different things. So we also have an angel card here, which I thought was interesting. The angel of truth. So there's also somebody here that is not guilty that's actually in this penitentiary. So a wine, a torch, and a bleeding eye. So this person probably got a lot of beatings due to how they look or how they presented themselves, but they were not guilty of their crime, which is interesting. Usually with spirits, they kind of play between two different absolves of I'm guilty and I'm not. But this one's completely I'm not, because I'm here doesn't mean. And there's wine. Wine can be the drink, or wine can actually be in a point of expression or regret of the situation that they're in that they can't control. Um, Also, a bleeding eye, that means there was a fight with this person against the other inmates for how they presented themselves or what they were saying exactly. Um, so, some people kind of get into that absolve, like you're guilty and because you're in there with them, but a lot of times people were wrongly accused of a crime to save somebody else of higher influence. Um, so we have the star from the Edgar Allan Poe one, which I'm going to flip. And then we have the Hierophant, which I'm also going to flip. And then there is the Emperor, which I'm also going to flip. So there's a consistency of a reflection in a window. There is a box or some type of concealment which has an active person in it. And then there's the library. I feel like there might be a big library in this penitentiary or something that resembles the library where there's spirits. So there's one spirit which will give you a reflection in the glass or a window. And then there's one that's going to be concealed that, probably like moves around a lot of things, or they might actually be in a cell where it would move and jingle and, just, probably be a little bit more active than it needs to be. And then in the library, you're going to get one that likes to sit either in the moonlight or in and around certain types of books. So some books might fall off the shelf that would give you some interest to their favorite books, if there's still books there. But yeah, I would kind of write down genres of books and see if somebody like comes behind you and scratches their favorite genre of book. Maybe you'd be able to figure out who they are based on their selection of books. Um, but yeah, I think more antique books would be of interest to some of these ghosts. Um, so we have the Six of Cups, which is borage. I'm not sure what borage is. Borage kind of tastes like a lettuce, but it's not really a lettuce. It's like those little blue flowers. Um, so the future goals obtained, which will be for what should be as plans go awry. So a lot of plans went awry. And maybe there was a lot of different things that happened in order for certain spirits to be wary of individuals coming into the vicinity. It could be in spirit form, or it could be in their waking life, which would have been before they passed. But I feel like there's points where you make friends with somebody and then their time's up, so they have to walk the green mile, and you kind of had plans to talk to them that day, or had planned, some type of meeting, to talk about things. But we have blindness to the world with the judgment card. This is kind of in the spirit realm, so it has a negative connotation. So most of these are flipped around anyway. So okay. Blindness to the world, delay or disappointment, divorce, procrastination, theft, a loss of affection, morbid thoughts. So somebody that's contacting us actually hung themselves, either from the rafters or on the cell block. I don't feel like it was in their cell though. I feel like it was in somebody else's cell that they hung themselves, or had a suicide assist. Um, Suicide assists are kind of hard to explain, but it's when somebody assists you with your own suicide, which is, a homicide. But yeah, it's like, so some prisons don't see a suicide as like a suicide assist or anything. They just say this person was depressed and, gives that to the family, not anybody else, assisted them in ending it, which is really a shame. Um, it should be a mental health issue, and it should also be a self issue, with certain rights of how you treat other people. But what are you gonna do? Some people are sick. So we have the Ten of Pentacles. The Ten of Pentacles is the home, hearth, prosperity, riches and security, safety, and long family history and inheritance. So somebody here is like well to do, or like they've been like doing this for a while. So it's either a guard or it's like a criminal family. It could have been mafia related, Al Capone, But yeah, somebody had a skill of doing bad things, or had stories that were kind of wide eyed and just absolutely out of control. Like, whereas some of these inmates were there for minor crimes like drug possession, these people were like, doing things, burning down buildings and shooting up families for no apparent reason, killing made men for like sport, basically. And it was like very, like, you know, guerrilla warfare amongst the mafia members and rival gangs, or mobs, because it was like it's take all and leave nothing. The only rule that they had is not to kill made man, but a lot of times there was just rookie spite of, the elders in that situation, which is very odd. Um, in a tribe, in Native American tribes, if you went against the elder chief, it would be a bit of a problem, because the elder chief would tell you where to go and what to do and stuff. They would be teaching you the ropes. It's kind of like hippos in Africa, elephants in Africa, and lions. They have to go through the same migration schedules, and that's how ancient people were. They would go where the animals went in order to have a source of food, source of you know sustenance. But with gangs, it's kind of like wherever the getting's good, the getting's going. So it depends of how how you look at things. But let's see. The Four of Fire. The Four of Fire is the best of the home and hearth, the warding off of evil, romance, unexpected happiness, prosperity, peace, tranquility, and the achievement of a dream. So there was somebody here who is actually kind of infatuated with somebody who they admire. Now, whether it was sexual or not, it remains to be seen. I'm not saying it either way, so you can come to your own conclusions. But I think some of the inmates had deep, admire moderation of admiring certain inmates over others because of their crime wave or who they were as people. And there's no honor amongst thieves, but amongst criminals there might be. So it depends of how hard they did their criminal activity. So it leads to wealth, happiness, uh, country life, resting, and other things after a great struggle. I feel like this is Al Capone. Al Capone decided, hey, let's talk. But yeah, I feel like with Al Capone, I feel like he was doing a lot of things for the mafia, and him getting caught kind of made him rest for a while. I feel like that guy didn't have sleep at all, so it was like, he went from alpha male to kind of being like just just asleep half the time, kind of like a coma type state. But he was kind of conserving his energy. He never did over the amount of physical activity he needed to exhaust himself. So especially in prison, I don't think he was very interested in what was going on in here. So we have youth assimilating elders, a future of constant competition, labor, and strife. So there was a lot of labor stuff that they had to do. It was kind of like um, either smashing rocks or like making license plates or something. But it was kind of like heavy like blacksmith metal work type stuff in order to have sellable items to the public or something, to give back to the community basically. So we have the Knight of Swords, which is rushing into danger despite um, over a person of the opposite sex, naive, physical, mental, spiritual, and incapacity. So I feel like there is a few people that came into the facility that were either very beautiful or very, overly indulgent. Um, for a lot of the a lot of the prison inmates here. So there was probably a lot of them, because if this is like a luxury prison, there's probably a lot of very, well distinguished women in this particular thing. So of course there'll be some, looky loos that would be like, oh my gosh, blah blah, and fall in love with people's spouses and other things. But yeah, so channeled messages. We have a new course is needed. We have devotion, open relationships. We have concentrate so much on material wealth and other businesses. Don't want to be in a serious relationship. A newcomer. Family celebration, family conflicts, and multicultural racism. So I feel like in this particular thing, there was a lot of racism. And it wasn't against black and white, it was against Italian and white Americans, which is interesting to think about because it goes from one extreme to the next. You don't think that Italians and white people have like a problem, but like if they're of a different mafia, that could be a conflict, or if it's just a normal, rich person that sees the mafia as thugs and gang members and all this, then that becomes a fight. Like you don't like, how they present themselves or what they're doing. But then again, it's an entirely different approach to life. I'm not judging anybody because I don't know. With a lot of ritualistic things in different cultures, some of the stuff actually was assimilated by a lot of murderers, such as Egyptian, like passing away of a pharaoh and stuff, and how the organs would be removed and all this stuff, and prep for death and all this. And Native American burial grounds, where that would be the only time where it would be okay to put all their weapons and furs with them. If they were great hunters, they would get rewarded by the chief and all this. But yeah, it's the tokens of war is how people die. Like that's how ritualistic deaths work, and usually with murderers and um, sacrificial deaths and stuff, that's usually how it works. With modern day death, it's like you can't take anything with you, but with certain outskirts subdivisions of capacity with people, there's a lot of different ones. So it depends where you come from, who's the one to do you in and all this. But ritualistic death is like all over the place. It doesn't matter who you are or what religion you believe in. That's a ritualistic death, is anything that takes you to the next stage in your life or reincarnation. So there's that. Anyway, I'm gonna log off now. My family's awake. So hopefully this helps you out in some way, shape, or form. And I will see you in the next reading.